Peace be unto you. Dear viewers, the most ridiculous thing that the media is doing, that it's blatantly lying to everyone. Now Fox, it has lost a lot of credibility, but it still thinks it's mainstream media and it's in your face, and Bill O'Reilly's there and all of these other talking heads. But one clip we're going to take, we're going to dissect this clip. Now, this lady comes on and it's news and terror alert at the bottom and oh, the Muslims are coming. And she says,
this is we're learning new details about hundreds of no-go zones across France and other countries that are off limits to non-Muslims.
She says hundreds of no-go zones throughout Europe. Oh my goodness. I didn't know that Muslims are so powerful. I mean, we are the punching bag of the whole world at this point. We got propped up dictators everywhere. So all of these dictators that are popping all over the place and said hundreds of no-go zones. Oh my goodness, can you believe that? Hundreds of no-go zones throughout Europe? Is this a joke, or is this some kind of a fantasy, or is this something that is made up? I'm sure that you must be thinking hundreds of no-go zones. It must be just like Islamabad or Mecca or something like this. Can you believe that? I mean, just the amount of fallaciousness in their statements is enough for you to say that these are bogus channels and you just shut it off. So once a liar, always a liar.
Well, these no-go zones exist not only in France, but they exist throughout Europe. They're sort of amorphous. They're not contiguous necessarily, but they're sort of safe havens.
Mr. Emerson comes on and says, because he is so stout in his espousing of hate for Muslims, that he comes now and pontificates from on top. Yes, there are all of these no-go zones, and certainly through France, through Britain, through Germany. Just imagine the amount of fear-mongering that he's doing. Also listen to Mr. Cameron, what he's saying. This is the Prime Minister of Britain, calling him a complete idiot. I mean, so you should not watch any more Fox, otherwise you will be foxed.
Well, when I heard this, frankly, I choked on my porridge and I thought it must be April Fool's Day. This guy is clearly a complete idiot.
And there are places where the governments like France, Britain, Sweden, Germany, they don't exercise any sovereignty. So you basically have zones where sharia courts are set up, where Muslim density is very intense, where the police don't go in, and where it's basically a separate country almost, a country within a country.
You can see, like, Mr. Emerson has almost, he looks like he's on LSD or some kind of a drug, and you can see that he's just talking like a robot. I mean, just imagine, what is he saying? That Britain doesn't have sovereignty over its land, and that Muslims are sovereign over little pockets of Britain and Europe. I mean, what does he mean by that? I mean, how more ignorant can he be? Maybe a complete idiot.
You know what it sounds like to me, Steve? It sounds like a caliphate within a particular country.
Did you just hear that, reporter? A caliphate within a country within a country, a caliphate. You mean the Khalifa is in Britain? Well, I didn't know that. I have to actually go now, start saying, oh my goodness, we have to inform the whole Muslim world that there's a caliphate in Britain and maybe some in France, and I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I said, that's news to me. Do we give a pledge of honor here? I mean, where do these jokers come out of?
I got into a tweet fight with the French ambassador who denied that there are any such things as no-go zones.
He got into a tweet fight? Where did this twit come from? I mean, if you're tweeting, do you become a twit? I mean, this is the epitome of being a twit. I mean, no-go zones on a French website, and there's no such thing that there's a no-go zone in France for the police not to go in. This is another outright lie. It is something, this is mendacious. This is something that is pernicious to understanding real news, and we should actually shun it. Really shun it. I mean, pass this word out that there, once a liar, always a liar.
And in Britain, it's not just no-go zones. There are actual cities like Birmingham that are totally Muslim, where non-Muslims just simply don't go in.
There are cities in Britain like Birmingham. Hey, Adil, I know Adil from there, that non-Muslims don't go into. I didn't know that, but Birmingham, that non-Muslims can't go inside Birmingham. That's funny. Birmingham's population of Muslims, according to the official website, according to the official data, that it's 21%, 0.218, 22, something like that. So, what happened to the other close to 80%? What are they? Aliens? Are they plants? Are they dogs? Well, what are they? But actually there are 46% who actually profess to be Christians, and the other percentage, they have non-religious denominations. So this thing that Emerson's saying, and then as though it's like a discourse, he's tweeting and then he's talking. I mean, where do we, again, once a lie, once a liar, and always lying is always will be lying. So you can see that media has no worth, especially these channels. So whenever they come out with news media, you should actually have alarm bells going in your head to say they are totally discredited bunch of liars. And this is what I can say. And it's not because, oh, we're disrespecting it. They're totally disingenuous. I mean, you're seeing it yourself. Just imagine if they had some other facts and we couldn't fact check it. So people will just say, oh yeah, oh, that's right, that's right. So it is the once liars, always will be liars, and they've been doing it for many years. They've been pitting people together. You see it for yourself.
Now, he started with an apology. That's not a bad start. But what he should do is actually look at Birmingham and see what a fantastic example it is of bringing people together of different faiths, different backgrounds, and actually building a world-class, brilliant city.
And parts of London, there are actually Muslim religious police that actually beat and actually wound seriously anyone who doesn't dress according to religious Muslim attire.
Oh, did you just hear that? Parts of London's area have Muslim sharia police, the moral police, as though this is Riyadh or somewhere, even to beat up people because of Muslim attire. What is a Muslim attire? So if somebody has a beard and a kufi like me, it becomes an attire, so we go out and beat people. Is that right? Mr. Emerson, what have you been smoking? I just want to know that. What has gone in on here? Because you have been doing this for so many years. You thought that you were going to get away with it again and again, and you are being told that you have lied, you have concocted, and this is disingenuous to begin with.
Steve, is there any way to get these no-go zones back? In other words, does France want it back? Does Belgium want it back? Does Germany want these zones back? Because what's happening is this is metastasizing into a simple takeover. I think even you said Europe is over. What did you say, Steve?
Steve, you big expert, you terrorism expert, please tell us, how do we get these no-go zones that have come from your mind? How do we get them back? Please tell us, please, dear Steve, dear Abby, please tell us, how do we get them back?
I said Europe is. I said the other day, Europe is finished, because if you extrapolate the number of Muslims.
This is not the answer we were looking for. Europe is finished. My goodness. Why didn't you say, Mr. Emerson, that all of Europe was Muslim? That no non-Muslims were living there. There were no atheists. There were no dogs, no cats. They were all just bearded men like myself. Oh, Mr. Emerson, when are you going to blow your hot air out of your little pinhead?
I'm not saying that all Muslims are terrorists, far from it.
Of course
but the problem is that the leadership of the Muslim communities in Europe deliberately don't want to integrate.
Thank you, Mr. Emerson. you're not saying that all Muslims are terrorists. And thank you, reporter. Of course, she agrees. So you lambaste the whole, you say lies in and out, you say all the wrong things, and then you say, oh yeah, of course Muslims are not all terrorists. And then the other thing, but all terrorists are Muslims. Oh my, what a great line that people come up with. Where are they getting this information from, you see? Because these are all talking heads. They have nothing. They're given these big names, these big titles, counterterrorism expert, or terrorism expert, our expert. They're no expert. They can barely even hold a sentence. Just look at the mendacious nature of their conversation. Just look at how disingenuous the conversation is. Look at how fallacious it is. Look at how look how odious it is to the intellect. It has a stench actually that's coming from it. It speaks for itself.
You see a reaction by the population, Judge, but I don't see the country elites taking him back, and that's really unfortunate because it fosters the whole perpetuation of radical Islamic generations from here to come.
All right, I just have a few seconds left, Steve. Tell us very quickly about these women. You know, we hear about this woman, Bamidian, as well as some of the other female terrorists. I mean, there are a lot of them in France, I understand.
Yeah, well, listen, there are many of them, not many, I can't give you the specific number, but they've trained, first of all, they've carried out terrorist attacks in the Middle East, for sure. Hezbollah, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, ISIS even has women trained, Islamic female terrorists, and Europe also. We've seen now in Britain where women wear burqas to hide their identities, and in fact, in certain airports, believe it or not, they don't require the burqas to be removed to identify them, to see who they are on their passport controls.
Gotta wrap. Great point. I've seen it at airports myself.
Mr. Emerson, radical Islam throughout forever, and then you really don't know the numbers of terrorist Muslims, females that are living in France and in other areas of Europe. You don't know the number. How good of you to say that there are many, but you really don't know the number. And then you know about the burqas that in many of the airports, and I'd just like to know which airport. If you know about these airports, why don't you report them? That these women are going in with their burqas and they will not be identified, and they're just going to walk through the scanner and there's no passport, there's nothing, there's no identification. Come on, Joker, are you serious? Which dung did you actually come out of? I mean, I'm trying to be as nice as possible, although I have said some harsh comments because of your downright lies. I think you need to stop that, Mr. Emerson. No matter how many times you apologize, I think you need to keep apologizing, and you should never show your face on television again for lying. You are lying. You have lied. You have concocted stories for decades. I think you need to stop. You made enough monies on the backs of Muslims. I think this has to stop. So, dear viewers, I think we showed enough examples from just a clip of 5 minutes that how many lies that they have given, and the interviewer and the interviewee have both colluded and conflated all kinds of lies together and dovetailed them into a story. And just imagine, this is a newscast so anyone who does not know Muslims, all of a sudden they will hear that and have immediate fear and say, well, what's going on? And this alarm, constant alarm, is actually creating a lot of animosities against Muslims. That's why people are actually making hate crimes against them. And this is exactly how Nazi Germany, their media propaganda used to be. They started just like this, saying lies against the Jews, that they're taking over, they're infestations, they're taking over the economy, they're wallowing in their wealth and all of these other things, while they were ordinary Jews just trying to make ends meet just like everyone else. So this is exactly how they started, and they're doing the same thing with the Muslims. They have done that to other ethnicities and other race groups. So I think this has to stop somewhere. So with you, with your intellect and your sagacity, should be able to come to the point to say that this is an outright lie. I think you should just even take it off. In fact, you should cancel your cable bill. Cancel the bill and cancel the cable. I hope this was a point of edification. I'm sorry to be a bit harsh in my pointedness towards these characters, but I think we have had a lot of hurt from these kind of talking heads, and this is what I can call them, just talking heads, maybe airheads, and I think we need to expose them from now on. I hope you're well. Take care of yourselves. Peace be unto you.